Honourable Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I do not intend to be very long this afternoon. Primarily for the reason, Madam Speaker, is that the response from the other side has been very much overwhelming in respect of their ignorance about the budget itself. Madam Speaker, I remember as a student at Maris Brothers High School, some of us who were engaged in public speaking or when we had discussions about various topics, the brothers who actually had a very good ethos and indeed trained us very well, used to tell us that when you are debating a particular subject or topic, if somebody starts personalizing matters, if somebody starts going off the topic, if somebody starts bringing in ethnic and religious vilification, then you know that you have won. Then you know you have won, because they have nothing else to say on the subject matter. Madam Speaker, and that is precisely what has happened. That is precisely what has happened today, Madam Speaker. And in fact, since yesterday. That's precisely what has happened, Madam Speaker. Of course, Madam Speaker, I do not know what the ethos was at RKS and QBS, and maybe even at Tumbua. We, of course, have a few black sheep from Maris too. It's probably on the other side. But, Madam Speaker, you know, Madam Speaker, before I go into the actual, some of the statistics pertaining to the budget and the figures that were read out, and in particular some of the anomalies that I think that need to be cleared up, Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank Honourable Randondro for her comment about acknowledging the fact that we're increasing subsidies to outer island, to subsidize outer island fares. I can tell also that Fiji Link has reduced the air flight from to Vanuatu from $282 to $213. Of course, it'll go down by another 6% from 1 January, and there's also a one-way ticket to Vanuatu, Honourable Randondro. That's one-way ticket. Madam Speaker, I also like to acknowledge another Randondro for his comments regarding the accountants, and I completely agree with him. And in fact, that's what we are working on. We've had some discussions with some of the accountants. We do need to have an independent body that will assess complaints regarding accountants and indeed various tax agents, which is very, very critical. I'd like to also clarify another point. Honourable Tiko Tha talked about there not being any pork in the farewell for the former Honourable His Excellency the President. Honourable Matri Tumbua, whose people had actually done the ceremony, confirmed with us that in fact there was pork in it. But Madam Speaker, this is the level of debate we have in the budget. This is the level of debate we have in the budget. And unfortunately, the whole entire 2 days has been replete with these kind of shenanigans. Madam Speaker, let me just say one thing, because religion is very quickly flaunted by the other side. We, on this side of the house, including from there, we don't wear religion on our sleeve. Just because somebody may say Amen loudly or yell out something loudly does not mean, if they don't do it, does not mean they're people of God. There's only one thing I like to say about religion, Madam Speaker, is that we all in this house believe in God. And God believes that all human beings are equal. We are all God's children, Madam Speaker. We are all God's children. It should not be used, not be proselytized to get a point across to score political points. Nor should it be used as a means to threaten people with violence. Let me get on to the actual budget debate itself, Madam Speaker. One other point about the civil service. Honourable Vande would know about things like absenteeism in the civil service and about standards, Madam Speaker. If they knew, and the public of Fiji have complained about the civil service, not just now, but in the past. And there is a concerted effort to improve the services. Honourable Leader of NFP seemed to forget the events of 1987. 14 May, 25 September, it created mayhem. Mayhem in the civil service. Many people left, but he fails to ignore that. He said, oh, the structures were kept in place. Madam Speaker, the point is that the civil service needs to be improved. The civil service needs to be modernized, and it needs to be responsive to a modern society. We have comments made by the Honourable Gavoka talking about in 2000, when the conference, ACP conference, moved to Benin, somebody said, oh, Fiji, better infrastructure. That's 15 years ago. Why are we comparing Fiji with Benin? Let's compare Fiji with some other country that's of comparable ranking. But this goes to show they live in the past. The people of Fiji don't want the infrastructure of 15 years ago. They want the infrastructure of today. They are saying that they'll take money from FRA and Water Authority of Fiji and give it to make it free university. So what do? Do we tell the people of Nambawalu Draketi, you can't have your road? Do we tell the people in Buddha Bay, you can't have your road in Dakandrove? Do we tell the people in Sawaniseri and Naitasiri, you can't have the new road? Do we tell the people in Valley Road in Singatoka, even though you're the vegetable and fruit basket of Fiji, you can't have your Tahsil Road? Do we tell the people in Lomawai, Vunindolo, in Tailevu, in Nanrunga, that you can't have new bridges? Do we tell the people in Rewa, you can't have reticulated water system? Is that what they're saying, Madam Speaker? Because you do need to, Madam Speaker, invest that type of money to be able to get the infrastructure to the people of Fiji, because for generations we've been behind infrastructure. I completely agree with Honorable Bande. We need to improve the jetties. We need to get all those jetties and the wharfs and the bridges out. Of course, and it's being done. There are 200 bridges that have been identified as about to fail or going to fail. We need to fix those up. It stops people from accessing markets. Madam Speaker, the point is this. In respecting, Madam Speaker, the figures. Madam Speaker, I think I got called traitor.
Just move on.
Madam Speaker, the other point I wanted to make. They're going on about this increased spending to the military, but I'm very concerned about the debate we're going to have, because if you add, Madam Speaker, Head 19 and Head 49, which they have done, if you add Head 19 and 49, the total budget spend, if you add those two, 2015 compared to 2016, has actually reduced by $3.7 million. Even though we've given $6 million, an increase of $6 million in allowances to our peacekeepers. They're not serving in Afghanistan. They're serving in Golan Heights. They're serving in Lebanon. They're serving in Sinai. We are the only blue helmets in Iraq. On one hand, they talk about curtailing terrorism. On the other hand, they say, where are we going to all these countries? What do they want? Do they know what they want? Madam Speaker, let me get back to some very basics. The other side needs to have a better understanding of debt matrix. Because, Madam Speaker, when you incur deficit, nominal debt will increase. To ascertain the sustainability of your debt position, you need to compare the GDP. You need to compare it with GDP. Government is strongly poised to achieve a 45% debt to GDP target in the medium term. When you borrow to build, Madam Speaker, as we continuously said, you are building assets. If you borrow to spend on operational costs, then you are having a party. We are not having a party. We are building, Madam Speaker. We are borrowing to build. We are building roads. We are building bridges. We are bringing assets, Madam Speaker, building airports. Madam Speaker, unlike the previous governments who were borrowing to also pay for operational expenses, the other side stated that total debt increased from $3.7 billion to an estimated $4.4 billion. What the Honourable Member failed to state that this increase is over a 4-year period, from 2012 to September 2015. They obviously don't understand the difference between flows and stocks. Let me explain that. Debt is a stock figure, Madam Speaker. Debt servicing, which is principal interest payments, is a flow figure. A sensible economist will compare revenue relative to debt servicing. Honourable Prasad's assertion that every $3 of government's revenue, $1 of debt servicing is in fact a misrepresentation of the real outlook. In 2014, $465 million or 19.6% of total revenue accounted for debt servicing, which equates to debt servicing to revenue of 5:1. Perhaps he needs to brush up on his understanding of debt dynamics and the fundamental debt matrices. For the information of the Honourable Members, Madam Speaker, debt servicing stood at 26.5% of total revenue in 2005. 26.5%. So there has been a relative decline in terms of debt servicing as a share of revenue, Madam Speaker. A decline, Madam Speaker, in the share of revenue. government obviously, Madam Speaker, has been prudent in its borrowing. On the point that he raises, Madam Speaker, about overseas borrowing, this needs to be put into perspective. He obviously has a short-term memory. I had highlighted to this Honourable House in August that government has put in place a strategy of domestic to foreign mix of 70 to 30, plus or minus 5. This is specifically designed to safeguard against foreign exchange volatilities, Madam Speaker, and we remain steadfast in that mix, even though with the $200 million bond raising, US, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are currently at the moment being offered lots of loans, but we've been very prudent. World Bank, IMF, ADB, but we have been very prudent in our borrowing, and we only borrow to build. We only borrow to build, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, even these loans that we are getting, Madam Speaker, range, the interest rate ranges from less than 1% to 3%. Also, from a liability management perspective, external project loans have a tenure of 15 to 25 years. Out of $1.382 billion external debt as at 30 September 2015, 837.75 or 61% foreign borrowings were accessed at very concessional rates, Madam Speaker. The successful flotation of the US $200 million bond at 6.625%, Madam Speaker, is a testimony of the confidence and reliance international investors have on the current administration. It had fetched the lowest interest rate ever for Fiji, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, over the last 5 years, government has been recording operating savings. This basically means, as I've highlighted, and I know some members said the other side when Honourable Minister of Education was saying this year, oh, credit, or dinau. Madam Speaker, the operational cost is not paid for by borrowing money. We are generating enough revenue to pay for operational costs. We are only borrowing money to build. They need to understand the basics. So essentially, Madam Speaker, we are not borrowing to pay for salaries, utility bills. Government revenue, Madam Speaker, in 2006, government revenue was $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion, 2006. In 2014, government revenue was $2.37 billion. An increase of 70%. An increase of 70%, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, essentially what we have now is the government savings, which is excess of operating revenue over operating expenditure has increased from $27 million in 2006 to $573 million, Madam Speaker. $573 million. Madam Speaker, and I'll tell you why. Because in 2006, the previous government, the operating to capital expenditure mix was 85:15. In other words, 85% of the money they spent was spent on operating it, not building. Building was only 15%. Madam Speaker, now the expenditure mix is 65:35 in 2014. And next year, the mix is 60:40, Madam Speaker. The mix is 60:40. Madam Speaker, the other side cannot deny that capital investment adds to the productive capacity of the economy, which is evident in the sustained economic growth we've seen in the last 5 years. When you build better roads and bridges, when you get people quickly to markets, when they're able to essentially, Madam Speaker, have greater efficiency in the transportation sector, there's a level of confidence people build. People go into those other areas. The people of Neta City can bring their goods a lot quicker to supermarkets. They gain confidence. They want to develop their land, Madam Speaker. They don't understand that. Madam Speaker, they need to get their facts right. They need to get their facts right, Madam Speaker, that over the last 5 years, the health and education budgets have increased substantially. They talk about contingent liabilities. The assertion that contingent liabilities to the tune of $2.4 billion is a real exposure is utter lie. It's a lie. I'll tell you why. Out of the $2.5 billion, Madam Speaker, out of the $2.5 billion, $1.73 billion, Madam Speaker, $1.73 billion or 69%. 69% relates to the guarantee of FNPM members' funds. 69% relates to FNPM members' funds. In fact, the explicit liability is $772 million. over the last 5 years, there has been no guarantee calls signifying that the guarantee given by government is done in a well-managed and risk-conscious manner, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, FNPF finances are in a very strong position and a robust position, thanks to the reforms initiated by the government. It's won already 2 international awards. They have already won 2 international awards by independent body, but these people don't recognize that at all. It does not fit in with their political agenda. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Prasad, the Honorable Prasad talked about slip. He said, oh, we got, increased slip. We did not increase slip. We basically, Madam Speaker, included apartments in the definition of project within slip. He needs to read that. We have not taken away slip. We have said that there needs to be a restriction on slip. We have said, Madam Speaker, that older hotels cannot get that. We have cut back on the standard allowance, Madam Speaker. But new hotels, Madam Speaker, can get slip. But it needs to be limited, Madam Speaker. It needs to be limited. We are focusing on health. We are focusing on housing, Madam Speaker. And that's what we'll continue to do, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think it's an insult. I think it's an insult when the other side says, oh, the low-income people don't need anything either than flour, rice, oil, kerosene, powder, milk, tin, and tin fish. It's an insult to them. It's an insult to them. They think they don't need clothes, they don't need hardware, they don't need a house. They think they don't need sugar, they don't need salt, they don't need bread, biscuits, onion, garlic, potatoes, fruits and vegetables, dal, curry powder, noodles, as well as the day-to-day necessities, women's tampons, toothpaste, soap, toilet paper, mosquito coil, steel wool, deodorant, furniture, Madam Speaker. They think that they live on there. What a joke! What a joke! Madam Speaker, I have to tell you one thing. On the shadow minister's speech, I laughed the loudest and the most. It was entertainment plus. Entertainment plus, Madam Speaker. It was entertainment. Loved it. But Madam Speaker, unfortunately, like a Greek tragedy, it is actually a comical tragedy. It's a comical tragedy, Madam Speaker. They came along, they said last year the budget was boring. This year they say we try to pull a hat out of everything, it's deceptive. They can't even get that right. They can't even get that right, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, yesterday I had the fortunate ability, Madam Speaker, I was fortunate enough yesterday that I was in Kavanangasau at a school of 63 students and all the parents were there. All the parents were there. No matter how much of a gravelly voice comes from the other side, it's not going to deter us from the fact. Madam Speaker, Kavanangasau, the ordinary people said to me, they spoke to me in Fiji Hindi, I'm not going to say it here because I stick to the rules and I speak in English. Madam Speaker, I'll translate. And they said to us, it looks like the opposition don't know what they're talking about. And they said to me, and then the guy said to me, are they deliberately doing it or do they don't know? That's what they said to me. In fact, Madam Speaker, I rescued the opposition. I said, look, maybe they need some time to digest it and then they'll get to know, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the reality is, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, your sources are flawed, my friend. Madam Speaker, the point is this. This budget, Madam Speaker, is a people's budget. This budget, Madam Speaker, is a forward-looking budget, Madam Speaker. This budget, Madam Speaker, has been assessed over a period of 18 months. If they were clever enough, some of the papers, some of the questions that were asked by this side of the House, we were setting the platform. But they were so busy trying to poke fire at us at every small thing, they forgot to look at the big picture. We are here to look at the big picture, Madam Speaker. That's why Fiji First is responsive to the needs of everyday Fijians, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, therefore, I'd just like to end on one very simple note which kind of exemplifies what the opposition represents. They talk to us and they say, you must have more accountability. Money has been spent without any proper controls. And then when we put things under R, they say, why are you putting under R? That's precisely what R does. That's precisely what R does. R does that if the Minister for Agriculture is given $5 million to build a plant in Kawanangasao, we check whether they have spent the money properly. The next payment then comes, the Minister for Finance then approves, Madam Speaker. That's what happens. They need to refer to the estimates that explains what R is. Madam Speaker, I recommend this budget to this Honourable Parliament.
I thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Thank you. Pursuant to Standing Order 99, Clause 3, pursuant to Standing Order 99, Clause 3, the 2016 Appropriation Bill 2015, Bill number 23 of 2015, has now been read a second time. And without any question being put, the bill and the estimates now stand referred to the Committee of Supply. We have finished the second reading of the Appropriation Bill, although the business from our order paper today is concluded, as specified in the resolution of Parliament on Monday, 16 November 2015, we will proceed into the next item of business scheduled for tomorrow. Now the Parliament will form the Committee of Supply to consider each head in the budget estimates. This process is envisaged to be completed on Thursday evening, and then the Committee of Supply will vote on the schedules and clauses of the 2016 Appropriation Bill 2015. For the committee stage, I will sit at the table with the Secretary General, and members should refer to me as Madam Chair. The mace will also be placed in the bracket under the table. The Secretary General will announce each head separately. Members may then stand to speak on that head. You may speak more than once on each head. You may also move amendments to the estimates in that head. If a member does move an amendment, debate will then be on the head and the amendment. At the end of the debate, the amendment or amendments will be voted on first and then followed by a vote on the head. Please be reminded that amendments in Committee of Supply are limited to those permitted in Standing Order 100, Clause 2. This is either an increase, a decrease, or removal of the item or subhead from the head being debated. Finally, the debate, if any, should be confined to the head, subhead, or item referred to. Any debate must be relevant, concise, and not repetitious. There are heads 1 through 52, which we need to get through, and therefore I will be vigilant and order members to cease speaking if I feel the rule for the committee process is being breached. Honourable members, I ask for your cooperation. Secretary General.
Committee of Supply on the 2016 Appropriation Bill 2015, Bill number 23 of 2015.
Secretary General.
Head number 1, Office of the President.
The floor is now open for any comments. The Parliament will now vote on head number 1. The question is that the amount of head number 1, Office of the President, be approved. Does any member oppose the motion? No one opposes. The head is therefore agreed to. Yes, what? What? Yes? Yes, the head is agreed to. Thank you. Oh.
How many established staff are being budgeted for? Seg 3, why is there a separate allocation for travel, 77,500, and overseas travel of 100,000? Seg 3, so Ron, what telecommunication expenses warrants an approximate 40,000 increase from 2015 allocation? Seg 1, on Seg 1, specifically on Program 1, Activity 1, how many established staffs are being budgeted for?
There's a debate on this, and members have to stand up if you have something to contribute. And you are proposing an amendment. We would rather that you write that amendment on paper before we can debate on it.
No.
Seeking a clarification.
Just a question.
Oh, you're seeking clarification, please? Government?
Yeah.
Are you aware of the clarification, sir? Please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, as has been highlighted previously, that the staff numbers are no longer the domain of the Ministry of Finance. Yes, there are general guidelines that have been given, but it's up to the various ministries, the permanent secretaries, to work within the budget itself. So they have been allocated $649,000.6, and they need to work within that budget. So whether they employ 5 people, whether they employ 7 people, they need to work within the budget. In the same way, Madam Speaker, as the political parties have been given their budget, they need to appoint their own staff members. That's their domain. Similarly, we have that case with the respective ministries, and of course now with the Office of the President. In respect of the travel numbers,
We're still on Seg 1. How many? You have not answered that. How many?
Yeah, because I cannot answer that, because we give them an envelope of money, and it's
You're
up to
wrong.
them to select how many staff they want. That is how it's done.
It's not done like that.
Madam Speaker, again, the honourable member has not moved on with the times. We did that last year, but unfortunately you weren't here, so you wouldn't know. Last year we similarly, if you recall, I know in your time in government that they used to have the numbers here. We no longer do that. The fact is that we have an envelope. When we have the discussions, Madam Speaker, with the respective ministries, they do come and make some budgetary submissions in terms of increasing numbers, etc. But to give them that independence, we allocate them a sum of money, and it's up to them to decide. So it would be wrong for me to say, well, next year from 2016, they will have 15 people. They might actually decide they have only 13 people. That's how it works, Madam Speaker. And in respect, so if that's a clarification, that's the answer.
Thank you. I just would like to remind members, as I had mentioned, that this debate really is restricted to either you want an increase or decrease or removal of the item in the subhead, and that's it. If we are to clarify on all these subheads, then it's going to take a long time. The clarification? Now that you've had the clarification, what is your recommendation?
We have got questions first, and when
Please tell-
sorry. My apologies, Madam Chair. The reason why we ask first to determine the next question. Well, so we need that information. If it is answered well, then we don't need to rise or reduce in our proposal. That's why it's important that we ask that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments?
In regard to that question, as the Honourable Minister of Finance said, they are given an envelope. Are these staff members, civil servants, or casuals, or what in that regard?
Please clarification.
Madam Speaker, Seg 2, Honourable Leader of Opposition, Madam Speaker, through you, is the casual. Casuals don't go into Seg 1. Casuals go into Seg 2.
So in that regard, staff, civil servants?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Still on Seg 1 and also on Seg 2 in terms of the numbers, how does the Minister for Finance would ensure transparency and accountability when we don't have the numbers? We don't know. How are we going to account for that money when we don't have a number to guide in the recruitment? Thank you.
I think that's a fair enough question, Madam Speaker. The reality is that we have merit-based appointments. They have to have the staff board meetings and minutes available when the Auditor General does go and carry out its audit. So that's the checks and balances. And of course, they have to go through the government system because they're all paid by government. And that is the guidance. And if you will recall, Honourable Member, that one of the part of the civil service reforms is also a review of the salaries. We are looking at whether people's salaries need to be increased, in particular for certain positions. As we've stated earlier on when we've discussed civil servant salaries, we believe in that certain positions, salaries need to increase. And not just specifically in this particular head, but if you look at, in particular, say, Ministry of Agriculture, you look at medical, if you look at local government, if you look at education, there are certain positions, industry and trade, where we are actually losing people out to the private sector or losing them to regional organizations. So there needs to be a general benchmarking in terms of the salaries. So this is why I'm saying that we cannot give the specific amounts, but that's the checks and balances. Just for your information, this year they had 24 positions. This year. Unestablished was 15. That was for this year. So I cannot tell you how much it will be for next year. But for this year, they had 24 and they had 15.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification from the Honourable Minister for Finance. Last year they had 24 staff. This year with 15 casuals. Can you also give a organizational structure of what are the hierarchy of positions in there, so we can actually break down into the costs on how much, or what structure, or they're changing structures as they go along, on what are the structures that suits them as we go along. Next year they might change structures again. Do they have a stable structure?
Honourable Member.
The Minister of Finance very quickly answered that question, and I see that is irrelevant now.
No.
It's irrelevant now.
Thank you. Why are you asking the question? Are you proposing to increase, decrease, or approve what has been appropriated?
It comes down to transparency, Madam. In regards to when you budget, give an allocation for a particular budget, we talk about a structure with the posts that are there in the hierarchy. Then we can establish the amount that's allocated, and whether this amount will increase next year, which means they are going to extend the structure will have to change.
Thank you. Let's not talk about structure. Structure is there, of course. But let's talk about increase or decrease or retain this budget. Let's be very focused in the debate today.
Madam Speaker, just for clarification to the Honourable Member, if you look at Honourable Member, this year's amount, that's there, 649.6. Next year, they'll be given the same amount. So there's no change in the overall amount. Yeah? So the amount is still the same. If you look at 2014, which the estimate shows on page 12, they're actually at 538.7. So 2015, it went up to 649.6. But the same amount will carry on next year.
Thank you. Dr. Benjamin Prasad.
Madam Chair, just a quick point. I mean, I agree with the Honourable Minister of Finance that there has to be some flexibility with respect to how much people might be paid, and there might be other variances how to keep people. But I think it might still be an idea, Madam Speaker, for future budgets that we have established numbers. We have an estimate of what the numbers in a particular ministry or department ought to be. The other flexibility, I think, can come with that allocation as well. So perhaps for next year, I think they might want to consider that.
Thank you. I think we have enough comments. We can now vote on the head number 1. The question is that the amount head number 1, Office of the President, be approved. Does any member oppose? Thank you. The head is therefore agreed to. Secretary General.
Madam Chair, Seg 3, why is there a separate allocation for travel, 77,500? And no, we voted on one.
No, on the head.
Oh,
We
the head
voted
did.
ahead.
That's not. We said we want transparency. Things can be corrected. The people are paying taxes here.
We will not go.
Listen, let's be decent.
We will move on. Secretary General.
Head number 2, Office of the Prime Minister.
The floor is. If any on head number 2.
Head 2, Seg 3. Could the Minister explain why there is a substantive increase of 1,159,900 in the travel and communications budget?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
And second, Seg 3, can the Minister further clarify whether the allocation for overseas travel for the Prime Minister is 1.5 million would also include all other related travel expenses, accommodation, meals, bodyguards, etc.?
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, thank the Honourable Member for the question. Travel, obviously, Madam Speaker, the first travel in Seg 3 does relate to internal travel within Fiji. As you know, we probably have the only Prime Minister in Fiji's history who's travelled so much internally and been to all corners of Fiji. That takes care of that expense. Overseas travel, Madam Speaker, for the Prime Minister involves all his expenses pertaining to airfares and various other costs that relate to overseas travel. As you also know, the Prime Minister has travelled quite significantly last year and this year. What we have found, Madam Speaker, is that because of the travel commitments of the Prime Minister, they've had to via from within. So they get it from various other segs. So in order to have proper transparency, we've actually put in an increase in a realistic amount that sets out at about $1.5 million that's set aside for his overseas travel.
Thank you. Honourable Salter.
Madam Chair, thank you. Pursuant to Standing Order 102, I move without notice that Head 2 of the Office of the Prime Minister be decreased by 700,000 in respect of overseas travel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Could you fill that form, please? Will debate. debate on this one. Thank you. We shall debate on that proposal, Parliament, and the amendment by Salary and Rondo, that head 2 to be decreased by $700,000 in respect of SEG 3. And SEG 3 is the travel and communications. She wants it reduced by $700,000. And that is open for debate. That amendment is open for debate, if any.
Madam Speaker, does the mover of the motion actually give reasons, or do we just speak out against it? Need to be guided.
Let's debate. If you like, you can question it.
Madam Speaker, I don't want to trouble the honourable member and ask her why, but the travel expense has been allocated because of the travel expenses of the Prime Minister. It's very much in demand, as you know, by many countries. And Madam Speaker, I believe that the amount allocated obviously has been dealt with quite rigorously in terms of ascertaining what will be the actual cost. And we believe that the $1.5 million needs to stay.
Anyone else would like to speak on that amendment?
Madam Speaker, I think one of the reasons for putting up this motion, Madam Chair, is that there's been concern that the Prime Minister travels too much and is not in the country as much as he should be. In fact, and it was raised the other day that this is the second year in a row that the Prime Minister is not here to hear the debate of the budget. I mean, because the other side, Madam Chair, they make a big fuss when we protest and don't attend things on principle. We don't attend a party, a farewell party, a swearing-in party. We are accused of all sorts of things. Here, Madam Speaker, we are just enabling the Honourable Prime Minister, who is elected by the people of this country, to be in this country. His Minister of Foreign Affairs can travel everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
It is to, sorry.
Honourable.
Madam Chair, let me just say that there's a need for our head of government to travel. For some meetings, only the head of government can attend, not even ministers, as you know, Madam Chair. The one that is taking right now is Minister for Sugar, is attending the ISO in London, and then he is chief guest of the ACP Council of Ministers meeting on the 24th of this month. And then from there he goes on to Chogram in Malta, and that is head of government. And then into Paris as head of the Fiji delegation to the COP Climate Change Summit. So other meetings, Madam Chair, I can assure you, assure the honourable member that it is necessary for the Prime Minister to travel.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, very well said by Honourable the Minister for Foreign Affairs, but we're dealing with administration here and logistics and figures. Then where's the detail? Can you just feed us with that, please? Where's the detail?
Honourable Chair, in a normal budget like this, there's really no need for details. I can assure you, other past budgets, no details for travels, just a lump sum.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Minister of Finance, I'd like to make a question. I fail to see the logic in Honourable Johnny Ndalo saying, if we reduce the budget, therefore he'll travel less. It has nothing to do with that. What we are trying to do is address a particular issue, and that is to say how much money we allocate for a particular expense under a particular seg. Just by reducing the budget does not mean he will not travel to a heads of government meeting. They'll have to wire from some other seg. This creates more transparency. If the money is not utilized, the $1.5 million, it goes unutilized. But the reality is that by having specific sums, and you'll see throughout the budget, Madam Speaker, we've given more details and right amount of allocation. For example, the Minister for Health nearly every year used to overspend the allocation on amount of money allocated for oxygen. You'll see this year, the amount of money allocated for oxygen has been increased. Because what they used to do was then buy it from somewhere else. What we are saying to the respective ministries, you don't buy it from somewhere else. You use what's been given to you, and we will give you the right amount. And that's specifically what's being done here.
Thank you. Honorable Ronaldo.
Madam Chair, I think what motion was intending to portray was a reduction in the allocation of reduction by 700,000. As compared to last year, there was 1.02 total amount that was allocated on this seg, an increase of 1.159 that was provided for in 2016. So we're proposing, the motion was just to basically reduce the allocation of 1.52 by 700,000.
Thank you. There being no other comments, we will vote on that. Okay, any other comments on the other sets of head 2?
No, Chair. The last one we were taken for a ride, and we lost all segs that we want to actually emphasize. Now, can you please clarify that we are voting only for that particular motion, because we have seg 4, 2 sets of seg 4, 2 sets of seg 5, and 110, and 3 segs of seg 10. Yeah, I know. But we are voting for each seg now as we raise it. Thank you. For the motion, yeah.
We have information on the recommendation for the reduction in seg 3, but we will go to the votes when we've completed all comments that would be made on the other segs. Then we start voting on each seg before we vote on the head. So any other comments on
Yes, Madam Chair. Seg 4, would the Minister explain the purpose of allocating 180,000 for spare parts and maintenance, and whether there is a whole of government vehicle leasing arrangement in place, and if this arrangement includes the provision of spare parts and maintenance?
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, sorry, if I could explain that. Obviously, there is government leasing, but there are still some vehicles that are not leased we had bought. So they're still within the system, and that's the allocation that's been made for that. There are still some vehicles that are actually bought previously. Yes, in all over the place. So this is why you have spare parts and maintenance that's been allocated for that. You'll find that all the ministers, for example, the Minister of Agriculture still has some vehicles that are quite old that were bought. That were bought previously. So we are slowly phasing them out. So this is why you will see in most of the ministries, you'll see spare parts and maintenance being allocated. Some will have less, some of course will have more, because there's a bigger pool of vehicles that are actually owned.
Thank you. Any comments on any other of those segs? Thank you. There being none, we'll start voting then on seg 3 that has been proposed.
Sorry, Madam. Another seg 4, would the Minister please detail the scope of the office upkeep allocations of 60,000? 2050, this year it was 40,000.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, as you know that the Prime Minister's office that he occupies is a very old building. In fact, when it was built in the 70s, it was not built very well. For those of you who've been there, some of the floors have been upgraded, some of the others haven't. But as you also know that we are looking at relocating the premises. It does not mean that just because the allocation has been made that or the entire sum of the money would be used for that particular seg. So this is why we've made that allocation just in case. There was a case at one stage where they had found some asbestos-like material and that had to be obviously fixed up at some stage. Now there are certain sections where it's leaking, so they need to continue to occupy the building, and therefore in the meantime they need to be able to pay for the upkeep and maintenance of the particular building.
Thank you. Any other comments?
On Seg 5, Madam Chair, could the Minister explain why there is a dramatic increase of 100,000 for the expenses of board and committees? The allocation last year was 1,000.
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, this essentially is to fund the meeting expenses which are hosted by the Prime Minister, the Permanent Secretary, and other committee meetings organized by the Office of the Prime Minister. This, of course, includes the things like stationery and printing, refreshment. When you have various boards and committees, you have, for example, the Rambi Council, you have the Rotuma Council, you have the Kiowa Council that actually falls within the Office of the Prime Minister. When the Prime Minister does host them, these are the kind of expenses that falls within that. Again, Honourable Chair, the point is that some of these expenses, the allocations that were made, weren't adequate enough previously. So they would try and via from other areas. So we are giving specific allocations for that, so they don't actually go ahead and via. And that I think maybe, I don't know whether the Public Accounts Committee has looked at that issue, that viring from within the particular ministry, in fact, for some ministries was a real, it was more the trend as opposed to the exception. And we want to stop that. We want to say, if we're going to give you $50,000 for having meetings, you must stay within that. Don't try and take it from somewhere else. That's the reason why some of these areas we see an increase in the allocation.
Thank you.
The increase may be too much, from 1 to 100,000. Why can't you just level it up to 50,000?
Thank you. Do you have a justification for that exact figure to 50,000?
No, I'm just saying here, Madam Chair, the increase from 1,000 straight to 100,000 is too much. Why can't we just limit to up to 50 for the time being?
Thank you. I don't think I'll allow further comments on that because it has been, as has been agreed, these figures has been based on the experiences of last year and the number of meetings that have been held. Honourable Mbolitabu?
Still on that, Madam Chair, because what the Honourable Nanogo had raised was very important. Because if we are basing on last year's amount, it was $1,000. This year's budgeted allocation is $100,000. See, that's the big move. But according to the answer the Honourable Minister has just said, because of the meetings of other Rambi councils and other councils that have come to under the Ministry of the Prime Minister's office, but it would have been better. It would have been better if those meetings and all those committees and boards are specifically detailed, and we know how can we, so we can ascertain and substantiate the amount, the increase that is there. That's the important part.
Yeah, I don't think the issue is really relevant because it has been mentioned that it has been based on 2015, the last year's allocation, these figures. And as has been mentioned, there was a lot of virement of funds within the allocation, the appropriation for the Prime Minister's office to cater for the increased number of meetings. So,
just one other point, which I've also overlooked to mention and draw it to the members' attention. If you look at Program 1, Activity 2, under the Prime Minister's office, the Implementation Coordinating Office no longer exists. So if you see some of the amounts that have been there, in fact, have been shifted up to the Prime Minister's office. The IOC, as it was called, there were two functions of it. One of them was to essentially go out, to do what we call the charter work, essentially do the community outreach meetings that they had, go in particular to rural and maritime areas. The other function it had was the oversight and assessment of the annual corporate plans that the different ministries had, and they actually went out to assess that with the respective ministries. That, as you would have heard in my budget address, that no longer exists there. That function of assessing corporate plans and also looking at capital utilization has been more rightly moved to national planning. Because national planning, as you know, will have the development plan. So rather than having one sitting in Prime Minister's office, one in national planning, one somewhere else, to do different assessments, you'll find that permanent secretaries tend to be writing reports every month. We don't want to do that. There needs to be one centralized agency. So this is why IOC has been broken up in that sense. So the charter work, the outreach work has also gone up to Program 1, Activity 1. Thus, you will see some increases that have taken place in there. And the other functions, of course, has gone to national planning. This is why you see that improvement, that increase in the amount. Yep.
Any other comments on any other SEGs?
Program 1, Activity 2, Activity 1, Seg 10. Can the Minister advise why the small grants projects allocation of 7 million is not under requisition?
Thank you.
Honourable Chair, small grants by its very definition is a small grant. So you'll see, for example, some of the grants that are being given, you may find, for example, the projects may be worth $20,000, it's $25,000. And these are the small amounts of money that the Prime Minister's office does deal with in providing various community projects. So they're not large projects that are, you see most of the expenses that's under R are either new expenses incurred or they are large projects that needs to be kept under R. So because of the very nature that you have, for example, maybe 2 water tanks given to a school that may come under the small grants project, that's why it's not under R. I can tell you for this year so far, the utilization rate of the small grants scheme has been fully committed of $5.3 million already. We have a balance of $1.6 million that is actually going into some water reticulation projects in the Western and the Northern Division that will be almost fully utilized.
Supplementary to Seg 10, can the Minister please explain why the $200,000 allocation to the NGO funds for the education of needy children, FEN, has continued to be funded ever since the 2012 budget from the Prime Minister's office?
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I think the explanation is quite simple in the same way as why is the Prime Minister's office got control of Rambi Council and Keor Council. The reason why it was with the Prime Minister's office is because the Prime Minister was the one who started this initiative. And this, as you know, Madam Speaker, commenced before the free education. And we were identifying low-income people that were given assistance. But now, of course, we've got tuition fees all paid, free education. This fence now is identifying poor families where they give them things like shoes, school books, stationery, people who cannot afford it.
Madam Chair, a supplementary question to that. Would the Minister please assure this House that annual report from the FANG from 2012 to 2015 are presented to this August House as soon as possible?
Madam Speaker, I don't know whether this is the time to give such assurances because the point is that we are voting on the budget and the amount. Please bring them up and I'll of course, find out what's happening there, but this is not the time and place to do that.
Thank you. Any other comments? No, we shall now vote on the amendment that is before the House. And the question is that Head 2 be decreased by $700,000 in respect of Seg 3.
Madam Chair, in relation to Seg 10, I move the motion, Madam Chair, that pursuant to Standing Order 102, I move without notice that Head 2, Small Grants Project, be left out of Head 2.
Thank you.
Be taken out of Head 2.
Let's vote on the... We have 2 amendments to vote on now.
Head 2, we left out of Head 2, Office of the Prime Minister. Office of the Prime Minister, Madam.
Which means include this and this. Because
to remove small grants here.
thank you. We now have the correct wording for these amendments. We will vote on 2 amendments. And the first one is
We have Head 221 also to address before the... before the head is voted for.
Are you proposing an amendment?
Yes, Madam.
Just take a point.
The general question, can the Minister advise how the Cabinet Office will promote the release of government information in order to make the work of government more transparent and understandable, as stated in the supplement for the estimates, as Cabinet updates to the media and public has not been done for a number of years now. Seg 4, would the Minister explain the purpose of allocating 11,000 for spare parts and maintenance in where there's old government vehicle leasing arrangement in place, and if this arrangement includes the provision of spare parts and maintenance? And Seg 7 of the last Head 2, can the Minister detail the 100,000 allocation for XPMs and its use, as it is a recurring feature in the feature in this Seg from as far back as the 2007 budget? Thank you.
Or Minister, please, if you can just clarify what is clarifiable in this process.
Madam Speaker, the ex-Prime Minister's benefit, I'll start with that first. That's always been there. The various benefits that are paid out to the ex-Prime Ministers, as you know, under the particular Act, they get their pension, which they're entitled to. They also, as we brought to the attention of this House some time back, under the various, the specific law, they're entitled to various other benefits. So, for example, if they, from memory, if they hire staff, if they have telephone expenses, and they send that across. So this is what it captures there for the ex-Prime Minister's benefits. The other point about the spare parts and maintenance, again, Madam Speaker, is to do with vehicles. If it's in the particular Cabinet Office, if there's a vehicle, then that expense would be for that particular vehicle and any spare parts that's related to that. The third question, which was first, Honourable Member, I lost you, or you lost me, sorry.
Minister detailed the 100,000 allocation from XPMs and its use as it is sorry. First one. Well, the general question, can the Minister advise how the Cabinet Office will promote the release of government information in order to make the work of government more transparent and understandable, as stated in the supplement to the estimates, as Cabinet updates to the media and the public has not been done for a number of years now?
Madam Speaker, the Cabinet, as you know, all Cabinet documents are secret. That's always been provided for under law. Madam Speaker, the Cabinet does make press statements on various Cabinet decisions that are made. Not all of them. It depends on what Cabinet decides needs to be released at that particular point in time. And that information is made available to members of the public. Of course, the overall law that will come into effect, and I know that Honourable Karavaki has spoken about in the debate about the Code of Conduct, the Accountability and Transparency Commission, that needs to come into effect through a Code of Conduct. Madam Speaker, just for the honourable members on the other side, just for the information, the 1997 Constitution also had a provision for Code of Conduct. The SVT government, nor the short-lived Labour government, nor the SDL government saw it fit to put in place a Code of Conduct. We are doing that. Yes, we have been slow on it, not because we have not drafted it, we're trying to get it right. We've sought assistance from the UNDP regarding freedom of information and also Code of Conduct. And I can assure this House that those two bills will be tabled in Parliament in February of next year when we have the first sitting in the new calendar year. So in terms of access to information of members of the public or government processes, it will be done through the freedom of information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? None? Thank you. We will now vote on just the two amendments that have been proposed. And the first amendment, the question is that Head 2 be decreased by $700,000 in respect of Seg 3. Parliament will vote. Open the vote.
No.
Close the vote. Secretary General. There are 15 ayes and 29 noes, and therefore that amendment is defeated. We will move on to the second amendment. The question is that Head 2, Seg 10, Small Grants Project, be left out of Head 2. Open the vote. Close the vote. There are 15 ayes and 29 noes. There being 29 noes, that proposed amendment is defeated. Parliament will now vote on Head number 2. The question is that the amount of Head number 2, Office of the Prime Minister, be approved. Does any member oppose the motion?
Madam Chair, before we vote on Head number 2, there was another general question asked that wasn't dealt with. And that is if the Minister could advise how the Cabinet Office will promote the release of government information.
We will not go back to that because it has been voted already. That is only clarification anyway, and it was clarified. Now, I return. Parliament will now vote on Head number 2. Question is that the amount of Head number 2, Office of the Prime Minister, be approved. Does any member oppose the motion? No opposition, thank you. Huh? Open the vote. Parliament will vote. Open the vote.
Head number, just read it out, madam. They don't understand.
Parliament will vote on head number 2. And the question is that the amount of head number 2, Office of the Prime Minister, be approved.
Yes.
Let's vote. Open the vote. If you voted, don't vote again.
It's still open.
Still open. Still open. No, this is the head.
We'll vote again. We'll vote on the head.
On the head, Office of the Prime Minister. We're going to open the vote again. Are we clear? Have we all voted? Thank you. Close the vote. There are 29 ayes and 14 noes. 5 not voted. The head is therefore agreed to. Thank you. Secretary General.
Head number 3, Office of the Attorney General.
The floor is now open for comments, if any. There being no comments.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Honorable Wultavu, you have the floor.
No, Madam Chair, it will be painful and it will take long, but you have to go slowly. Eh? Seg 1, Madam Chair. Can the attorney, head 3, Seg 1, eh? Program 1, Activity 1, Seg 1. Can the Honorable Attorney General advise why it costs 3.6 million when previous budget estimates clearly and consistently show an underspent in actual expenditure?
Madam Speaker, yes, that allocation has been made because we have various positions that need to be filled. We want to fill them with competent lawyers. We are in search of competent lawyers, and as we slowly get them, we do fill up those positions.
Thank you. Any other?
Madam Chair, supplementary to Seg 1, what are the allowances of $55,000 for?
Honorable Minister.
Madam Speaker, these allowances are for staff that, for example, get posted to Lautoka and Lambasa. We have Attorney General's offices in those places. So we have, for example, sometimes we pay for the quarters, or they may get to hire, private residences, and we make allowances for them there.
Standing Order 102, I move without notice that Head 3, Office of the Attorney General, be decreased by $300,000 in respect of established staff.
Do you have any comments? Any further comments on other segs?
Chair.
Honorable Parod.
Madam Chair, can the Honourable Minister for Finance and the Attorney General explain the justification of this increase, whether there are going to be any additional posts created, if not additional posts created, and just for the hiring of competent lawyers. I'm sure the competent lawyers are already there, and I understand that the same salary, will be given to those that are there and to those that will come. If there is no additional post that to be filled, then there is no justification for this increase.
You had answered that, didn't you?
Just for clarification for the Honourable Member, there's no increase. The amount of money we're getting this year is the same amount of money we're getting next year. There's no increase.
Clarify that, Madam Chair. Would the Attorney General explain why there is 19,000 increase in Seg 2 from 2015 estimates, and how many additional government wage earners would be recipients of this increase? That one.
Madam Speaker, there are various positions that need to be filled under general administration for government wage earners. And Madam Speaker, whether they are drivers, whether they are more secretaries, etc., that needs to be done because we're actually expanding. When you hire more lawyers, you need more support staff. So that's why you have a commensurate increase in actual casual or wage earners. So if you, for example, are going to hire another 5 more lawyers, you need people to support that. You may need at least one person who may need to do the typing, etc. You're getting more lawyers, you may need more drivers. So these are the kind of reasons why you have an increase in the government wage earners.
Thank you. That being clarified. Any other comments?
On Seg 4, would the Attorney General, the Minister of Finance, explain why there is an increase of 50,000 on power supply for 2016 when the allocation was 120,000 this year?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, again, the honourable members must also realise that you also have the various government offices that we do operate. So, for example, the company's office, you have the titles office, etc., that falls under. My mistake. You have the increase of the various office provisions of the respective Attorney General's offices. Again, like with the other ministries, Madam Speaker, we have had instances where you have wiring taking place from the different expenditures that have been given for us to be able to meet those expenses. So this is why that increase has been put in place.
Any other comments? There being none, thank you. There's only one amendment that has been proposed.
On Seg 5, can the Attorney General assure this House that any savings from continuing legal education for the Attorney General's annual conference will abide by the Finance Manual Part 15?
Madam Speaker, again, I'd like to raise the point. We're here to debate the figures. I'm not here to give any undertakings. We can give undertakings in respect of any of the amounts that are shown in here, and then we'll discuss with that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I will move a motion. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 102, I move without notice the Head 3 Office of the Attorney General be decreased by 100,000 in respect of continuing legal education. Thank you.
It's Seg 5, not 3.
5.
Seg 5. Any other comments or not? Any other segs apart from there?
Seg 5, supplementary, Madam Speaker. What is the, Madam Chair, what is the differences in expenditures for drafting of laws allocated for 500,000 and legal experts expenses allocated for $400,000?
Thank you.
Drafting of laws, Madam Speaker, is, as it states, it's drafting of laws. We hope to get more expert legal draftspeople within the chambers. as we've highlighted previously, that we're getting a lot more bills next year. Some of the areas are very specialized, and there's an allocation made for that specifically. Legal expert expenses, there are obviously sometimes we have complicated transactions that do take place, and we need, for example, outside lawyers to have that input to, for example, do complicated contracts, and we need people in the Solicitor General's office who are able to deal with that. That's why those expenses are actually separated to show. So the one is specifically for drafting, and the other one is for those type of legal expenses. You'll actually see similarly in the DPP's office allocation. You'll see that they have a expense specifically for legal consultants. So for example, if they want to bring a QC from outside the country, then they are actually funded from that particular seg and that allocation made under that seg.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Motion, Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 100(2), I move without notice the Head 3 Office of the Attorney General be decreased by 300,000 in respect of legal experts' expenses.
Thank you. While that proposal for an amendment is being written down on the form, are there any other comments?
Seg 5 supplementary. What is the Constitutional Service Commission? There is no such legal thing, only a Constitutional Officers Commission. Motion, text to amend this allocation. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 102, I move without notice the Head 3 Office of the Attorney General be decreased by 50,000 in respect of Constitutional Service Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. While that is being regularized, any other comments?
I'd like to actually just speak on that. I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for that particular drawing our attention to a typographical error. It's actually the Constitutional Officers Commission, and that's a typographical error. As you'll find that there's one where we've got an allocation to Latoka and sent to Ba in local government. So it's actually Constitutional Officers Commission. As you know, Madam Speaker, that in this year's budget, there was no specific allocation made for the Constitutional Officers Commission. And therefore, we are now setting up a separate expense for Constitutional Officers Commission. The funding, whatever of the running of the meetings of the Constitutional Officers Commission, Madam Speaker, was in fact funded through the Solicitor General's office. So now to draw a demarcation, we have that. So Madam Speaker, if the Honourable Member still wants to go ahead with his amendment, he can, but I'd also like to move an amendment. And my amendment, Madam Speaker, is that for that to actually read Constitutional Officers Commission. That'd be silly. You don't have any allocation. That would be silly. He said to decrease it by $50,000. There's no allocation then.
Okay. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, Seg 6. Can the Attorney General please advise as to why the Legal Commission allocation of $5 million is under requisition?
Thank you. Thank the Honourable Member. Madam Speaker, you'll find that all allocations to all the various statutory bodies or commissions is under R. So for example, LTA, as Honourable Randondra would know, that if it's, for example, allocated $15 million for the running of LTA, there's an MOU that's signed between the ministry, the line ministry, and LTA, in which it says they have to do X, Y, Z, and that upon the various disbursements, etc., they need to provide the acquittals, then every quarter the money is released. That's why it's under R. We simply just don't give them the full amount of money. In this particular case, it's $5 million. They don't get $5 million. They get it every quarter. So it's their job to ensure that they provide the acquittals, and then we give them the money. It's the same for LTA, it's the same for FERCA, it's the same for Legal Aid Commission, and various other agencies that we give money to.
Still on Seg 6 supplement to the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Who's speaking, please? Oh, Honourable Nano. Thank you.
The Media Industry Development Authority, MIDA, has continued to be funded from public money since 2013 budget, and from the 2015 budget estimates, had ceased being under requisition. Can the Attorney General assure this House that annual reports for MIDA from inception until now are tabled in this House with urgency? Motion, in addition to that, motion text to amend this allocation. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 100 subsection 2, I move without notice that Head 3, Office of the Attorney General, be decreased by 200,000 in respect of Constitutional Services Commission. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair.
Any further comments on any other segment?
Madam Chair, on Seg 7, perhaps just a point of clarification there. The allocation of 450,000 for law revision, Seg 7, seems like an overlap with the allocation in Seg 5 for drafting of laws, estimated at $500,000. And a clarification needed on the legal expenses, estimated at $400,000. Can the Honourable Attorney General please advise the House as to the differences in these three allocations?
Mr. Speaker, I've explained the first two, which is the legal experts and the drafting. I already explained that. The Law Reform Commission, Madam Speaker, is a separate expense that looks at existing laws and they make recommendations regarding any possible, amendments to existing laws. It does not come from government per se. You may recall, Honourable Member, that a few years ago there was the Law Reform Commission had provided a proposal to amend, for example, laws pertaining to the penal code, including things like prostitution. They make various amendments in terms of pedophilia, and as you know, many of those recommendations, in fact, were included in the crimes decree. Madam Speaker, I also would like to inform this Honourable House, Madam Chair, that the Law Reform Commission at the moment is actually carrying out, and we are glad to say that we have teamed up with LexisNexis, and we are now, since 1985, which is after 30 years, the laws of Fiji will be consolidated. So that we hope to table in Parliament in February in a lot more user-friendly manner. It will be under the subject headings. It will also be available online, so it makes it a lot easier, and hopefully we can have all the laws consolidated and put here on this desk, on this table here in front of the Secretary General. So the Law Reform Commission work also carries out the consolidation of the laws of Fiji. So it will be up to date right up to 31 December 2015.
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, Seg 7 supplementary. Can the Attorney General please advise the House what the review of land lease arrangement allocation of 200,000 entails, as it was not mentioned in the budget address, neither was it made clear in the budget estimates.
I did announce it in the budget address. Madam Speaker, we had allocated, as you know, $500,000, and you'll see that in Head 50, where the Honourable Prime Minister had also made an announcement that there are a number of, and the Honourable Minister for Lands had also alluded to it, and the Minister for Agriculture had also alluded to it, that there are a number of, for example, people who cannot, for example, pay for their leases. They're absolutely in abject poverty, and they would be booted out of the lands that they're leasing. So government has made an allocation together with TLTB to be able to see how we can assist these people and providing a way of funding for that. This particular issue of review of land lease arrangements covers that particular legal aspect, to look at it, how we can sort out if there are any legal issues. Also, Madam Speaker, there are a number of legal issues that have arisen where, for example, Itauke landowners have said that TLTB in the past or currently some of the offices, for example, in Vanuatu or the West, that's where most of these things occur, where some TLTB officers actually go off and say that the consent has been obtained and issue an agreement to lease. So we need to address this issue. This has got nothing to do with Cebu. Cebu is completely different. It's in agriculture. This is to do with administrative decisions that have been made by TLTB that may not have necessarily been legally correct. And that's what we want to address. As you would know, Honorable Bulitavu, because you have more of the cold face of it than some of the other members sitting next to you, that these are some of the real issues that face some of the landowners. And on the other flip side also, we have found issues where sometimes TLTB officers, in particular in the West and Northern Division, get possible tenants or prospective tenants to apply for the same land about 50, 60 times and collect the fees and then kind of carry them along for the next 2 or 3 years and get them to have a conflict. This is what this allocation is for, to try and resolve those issues. It then creates certainty both on the landowner side and also for the prospective lessees.
Seg 7 supplementary. Madam Chair, can the Attorney General advise as to why the legal aspects of climate change allocation of 50,000 under requisition sits here, rather than in the Strategic Planning Office in the Ministry of Finance that is now supposed to coordinate all aspects of climate change for government as stated in the budget address?
Thank you, Honourable Member. As the name suggests, it's legal aspects. The national planning essentially is going to coordinate all matters pertaining to climate change mitigation and also the reporting of it. There are certain legal aspects that arise, and as you can see, it's a very low amount that's been allocated. We recently had, for example, discussions with the ambassador from Netherlands, where they, like countries like Bangladesh, have a lot of their land that's very flat. If the sea levels rise only a few inches, like in Bangladesh's case, 17% of the land will go underwater. Similarly, we have Tuvalu and Kiribati. Now, they have, one of those countries has bought land in Vanuatu, freehold land, and what they are saying is, for example, that if they go underwater, we have said that they can come and stay in Fiji, but there are obviously various legal aspects to it. What happens to things like citizenship? What happens to things like territoriality if half of your country is underwater? What will happen to your economic zone? Do you exist as a nation? So this is a very small amount. We're looking at working with different countries that have specialized in this. And in fact, some of the issues that we have identified, they have not thought about it themselves. So we are trying to create in Fiji a center, not center as in physically center, but in terms of the thought processes relating to the legal issues of climate change. That's what this allocation is for.
Any further clarifications needed? No? Thank you. We will now vote on the amendments that have been proposed. And the first one is, the question is that head 3, Parliament will vote on the amendment in the name of Honorable Ndula Verata. The question is that head 3, activity 1, seg 1, be decreased by $300,000 in respect of seg 1. Open the vote. Close the vote. There being 14 ayes and 29 noes, 5 not voted, the amendment has been defeated. Second amendment, Parliament will vote on the amendment in the name of the Honourable Kiliraki. The question is that head 3 be decreased by $300,000 in respect of seg 311 part 5. Open the vote. Close the vote. Thank you. There being 15 ayes and 29 noes and 4 not voted, the amendment is defeated. We'll now move on to the next one. Parliament will vote on the amendment in the name of the Honourable Ratusera Nanovo. The question is that head 3 be decreased by $200,000 in respect of Seg 6. Open the vote. Close the vote. Thank you. There being 15 ayes and 29 noes, with 4 not voted, the amendment is defeated. We'll move on to the last of the amendment. Parliament will vote on the amendment in the name of the Honourable Ratu Isotikula. The question is that head 3 be decreased by $100,000 in respect of Seg 5. Open the vote. Close the vote. Thank you. There being 15 ayes and 29 noes, the amendment is defeated. Honourable members, the Parliament will now vote on head number 3. The question is that the amount of head number 3, Office of the Attorney General, be approved. Does any member oppose the motion? No?
We need to touch on Seg 5, and Seg 6, Seg 10 of head 321. 32. Yeah, the one that we've just touched on is 311. Who said this? It's already touched here. You stupid. Walk on.
Thank you. There's been a clarification now. We had completed the discussions on the 311. We'll now go on to 321 of the same Attorney General's head.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, so all the members are on the same page. I assume that that's already taken for granted that in Program 1, Activity 1, Seg 5, that is Constitutional Officers Commission. That can be read as Constitutional Officers Commission, not Constitutional Services Commission. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments on 321?
Yes, Madam Seg 5.
Seg 5.
We note the provision of 100,000 for consultancy for both 2015 and 16, with 200,000 allocation in 2014. Can the Minister to indicate what measures have been taken to ensure technical competency within the organization or locally?
Clarification.
And the supplement that goes with that was the budget provision for consultancy fully utilized in 2015. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the consultancy is actually there because if, for example, there's an airplane crash, in Fiji you don't have people within the Ministry of Civil Aviation, let alone in many in the private sector, who can actually carry out a proper assessment of an aircraft crash. This is why that allocation is made there specifically. So we are hoping that it never gets utilized. If it gets utilized, that means there's been a crash. So we had an incident about 2-3 years ago. I stand to be corrected on the exact year, but there was a plane that had, veered off and it hit one of its wings. So you have to go and hire somebody to find out exactly what had happened, and that person needs to be independent. You need to pay them for that.
Any further clarification?
Chair, Sec 6. We note the increase in domestic gas services subsidy, bringing a total to $1.9 million. Can the Attorney General advise how taxpayers will be able to assess how their funds are being utilized to help citizens of these non-commercially viable routes in terms of flight regularity and numbers of passengers assisted?
Sorry. Madam Speaker, if I can understand the question, you want details on the subsidy?
Yeah.
There was a question that was asked of me some months back about the subsidy. I think Honourable Rondonto had asked the question. We had answered that question in respect of which were the airlines, how they are subsidized, what did it go towards. I also had highlighted earlier on in the budget address that the airfares of some of that has also come down. So that's how it works. We call for tenders at the beginning of every year, and we have, as you can see, we've allocated more money, so it provides a lot more, better pricing for them.
Thank you. Any further clarification? Honorable Bultau.
Madam Chair, Sec 10, still on L321. In the budget estimates.
There's no Sec 10.
Let me come to that. I'm asking the question. The question is, Madam Speaker, just to clarify to the Honourable Minister, in the budget estimates, the details of expenditure does not list the details relating to Sec 10. That's why it's not there. Page 23, it's not there. Yet in the appropriate authority 2016 statement, on page 3 of the estimates, it lists the schedule that the 18 million marketing support to Fiji Airways will sit under 321 Sec 10, civil aviation, under requisition. Concurrently, the 18 million marketing support for Fiji Airways sits at head 50 under 51.110. Can the Attorney General tell this House which is the accurate reflection of this 18 million allocation? Does it sit under civil aviation or under head 50? There's a confusion. That's why we were confused when I started with the Sec 10. And I also move, Madam Speaker, that pursuant to Standing Orders 102, I move without notice that head 3, Office of the Attorney General, be decreased by 18 million, in respect of marketing support for Fiji Airways. That's why you were confused.
Madam Chair, if I can get clarification. Honourable Member, you were saying in the estimate supplement, it appears on page? Page, sorry?
Page 3 of the estimates.
Sorry? Estimates? Sorry?
Page 33.
It's missing from here.
Sorry? Sorry, where are you talking about?
Refer to page 3 of the estimates.
Page 3 of the estimates. This is the estimates. Page 3 is... Sorry? Sorry? Sorry, which book? Sorry. Which book? Madam Speaker, I can clarify that as far as the proper estimate is concerned, just for the honourable members, this is the budget estimate. This is the book that we are voting on. This one. Now, in this book, which is the actual estimate that we are voting on, does not have the Sec 10. And it has the $18 million in head 50. Yeah. So we can't be voting on head 50 now because we're dealing with head 3. Page 3. Yeah. So where it's in here? You mean which? Oh, 3. Yes. Okay. Now that is incorrect. Yeah. Page 3 is incorrect. It should not read 32110. It should read head 50. Okay. Yeah. But the vote is on head 3, which does not have the 10 million. But your clarification, yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Bulitavu, for pointing that out. Vinaka.
So no amendment. Any other comments on
The same. No. Yes.
Head 3.
program 2, 321, head 3? No further comments. We will now Parliament will now vote on head number 3. The question is that the amount of head number 3, Office of the Attorney General, be approved. Does any member oppose the motion? Let's vote. Open the vote.
Yes.
The question is that the amount of head number 3, Office of the Attorney General, be approved. Yes or no? Does any member oppose the motion? No? Open the vote. Already? Close the vote. There being 29 ayes and 14 noes, 4 not voted, 1 abstained. The vote on head number 3 is approved. Secretary General.
Head number 4, Ministry of Finance.
Head number 4, the floor is now open for comments. Ministry of Finance.
Madam Chair, I have few clarifications and perhaps the Honourable Minister may want to clarify this. Seg 1, in the 2014 revised estimates, there's a complement of 29 established staff in the general administration activity. It was estimated to cost taxpayers about 525,000. We actually went up to 1.07 million. This increased to an estimate of approximately about 1.14 million in 2015, and now in 2016 it's estimated to drop to approximately 998. I'm just wondering what's happening there, whether staff doubled and then reduced, whether that's the right allocation.
I can assure the House that the drop in the allocation is in no way going to undermine the workings of the Ministry of Finance.
Thank you. Any further clarification?
On personal emoluments, Madam Speaker, there is a slight increase from 1.14 million in 2015 to 998 in 2016. Sorry, 2016. I'm just wondering, in light of the public service reform, and obviously the Ministry of Finance will also go under reform. Are you envisaging some savings there? That's why, or?
Thank you. Clarification.
Not necessarily, Madam Speaker. This is again the realignment. In fact, Ministry of Finance is one of those ministries that will need a lot of reform. And as we have already seen that, as we highlighted in the budget speech, Madam Speaker, We had, for example, the Fiji Procurement Office needs to be completely revamped. We had some Australian consultants, they were here recently, they've done up the report. There's a number of other processes, including audit, that needs to be fixed up. We have a number of people who do not necessarily have all the qualifications that have been in some of these divisions within the Ministry of Finance. So there will be a major reform, but we believe at the moment that that amount of money is sufficient to be able to run the ministry. So in fact, the budget allocation overall in the ministry, its proper itself, has decreased from at least in Seg 1, but you'll see, Honourable Member, that in Seg 6 and 10, it has increased regarding the grants that's going to be given to FERCA. And there's the reason for that, if I could jump ahead of myself, is the fact that we are giving them some money. As you know, that we're going to connect a lot of the supermarket cash registers directly with FERCA, and that is very, very critical. We need to have real live data, real live sales that FERCA knows, in particular the supermarkets, because all of us in this house, I think, agree on one thing, that we want to be able to control the price of food, and that there should not be over speculation and overpricing on food. This will also help us to do that and monitor the pricing on that. So that's why that additional grant money has been allocated to FERCA to upgrade their IT systems.
And just following up, Madam Speaker, if the Minister could also explain FERCA's modernization project, I think which was last year, and I think about 30 million investment over 3 years from public funds was used. 5 million of which was provided last year, 10 million this year. I think there was also donor assistance stated last year to fund the balance that was supposed to be secured. I'm just wondering whether that was secured and what's happening now in terms of the whole project.
Madam Speaker, I don't have the information on me, because I'm here to debate Head 26 regarding the actual allocation, but I can give, the question is put to me next year, I can give you all the specific details regarding that. But there is an IT upgrade. We did get assistance from World Bank / IMF regarding the actual consultant. So sometimes what they do is they put the cost of the consultancies in aid in kind. So they did provide that. We had somebody out that was running that. You know, you had the Escudia, the way you have the customs clearance, online customs clearance. Escuda. Yeah. So that has already been partially implemented. That needs to be done. Of course, there's a lot of ANC costs related to that. If you see, Honourable Member, the capital grant under Seg 10 to FERCA has been increased by 5 million, as opposed to this year they had 5 million, so another 5 million, they're getting 10 million. So that is to cater for both the IT upgrade, the existing work that's being carried out, and also we want to be able to have online lodgement, full online lodgement, not just by individuals themselves, but also businesses. And that's the work in progress. The additional 5 million is obviously to also cater for the other new initiatives that we put in place where we're getting the cash registers to be connected to FERCA.
Activity 1? No?
6 supplement. Can the Minister confirm if the capital grant injection of 10 million for this year to include the technology to connect cash registers FERCA is based on a feasibility study assessment, and whether they have factored in the indirect cost to their stakeholders and, more importantly, to the convenience of customers? Okay.
Honourable Member, I couldn't understand your first part of the question. If you could probably read it again, please.
Can the Minister confirm if the capital grant injection of 10 million for this year to include the technology to connect cash registers to FERCA is based on a feasibility study assessment, and whether they have factored in the indirect cost to their stakeholders and, more importantly, to the convenience of customers?
Madam Speaker, the objective of this is to essentially address 2 issues. One of them is that we know that there are certain, in particular supermarkets, that have cash registers that are there for official records, and a couple of others are probably unofficial. So So the sales from that do not get captured by the official government statistics or official FIRCA statistics. World Bank did a study, as I read a question that was asked of me, I think it was in August this year, where they estimated that nearly 33% of our GDP was in the black. In other words, about $2.something odd billion is in the black. And therefore the tax revenue from that is about 700 million, the overall loss of revenue is about $700 million in tax revenue, of which about $250 odd million is lost in VAT amount. So if you see in the budget announcement we made, we have been very conservative. We have not factored in the $250 million, we've only factored in $120 million. So we have been very conservative in that. So the reason why we are putting this in is to be able to capture all the cash registers, to be able to ensure that the VAT refunds actually do get passed, the VAT collection does get passed on to the consumers, is no way going to affect the consumers. It's simply a connection to the cash register. It's like you use your ATM. The banks do all sorts of things at the back, but you don't know about it. So the banks charge you, they're not going to charge you. So, and that's part and parcel of being a good taxpayer. The business houses need to do that. So it won't be of any cost to the consumers itself. To the businesses, that's a part of the cost of running of the business. We have obviously taken the initiative to not ask the businesses to invest in that capital expenditure. We're actually putting it in ourselves.
Six, Madam Chair, supplementary question. Can the Minister elucidate on the envisaged returns by way of revenue that this technology will bring? Just want to explain.
Six, Madam Speaker, if the Honourable Member looks, is the operating grant. The technology grant, Madam Speaker, is in Seg 10.
Kiliraki, you were standing?
Madam Chair, Seg 10 supplementary. Would the Minister please assure the House that Seg 6, sorry, supplementary. Would the Minister please assure the House that FRCA will table updated annual reports to this House as FIRCA website only as annual reports up to 2012, and simply to ensure that they too are accountable for public funds?
It's accountable to public funds.
Thank you. Any further clarifications, Dr. Biman Prasad? This is on activity 1?
Yeah, sorry. I was going on activity 2.
Okay. Any further clarification? Activity 1?
Activity 1, just a clarification, Mr. Speaker. Thank the Honourable Minister for Finance for clarifying those cash registers. The different models of cash registers we have. This particular, technology will be attached to it, just to clarify, or whether there will be a standard cash register that will be used by all the supermarkets, or that technology will be connected to the cash registers they have, and at whose cost that will be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Question already answered. Thank you. There being no further clarification of 411, I think we need a break.